Hi, everyone. We're about to get started, so please try and grab your food quickly and take a seat. Thank you. There are also seats at the front, so you're welcome to come to the front if you'd like.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, all the way to the front.
Great. So hello and welcome to the Center for International Development's Friday Speaker Series. I'm Shunta Takino. I'm a second-year student here at the Harvard Kennedy School. We're really looking forward to a discussion today on shrinking Africa's infrastructure gap. So today's session will be around 30-minute presentation, followed by 20 minutes for Q&A. Before we get started, I just want to mention a few housekeeping items. So first thing, this is a hybrid event. We'll be asking for questions both in person here and also virtually. I'll come around with a mic if you have any questions. We're also recording today's session, but we'll keep the camera on, just the speaker. So only voices from the audience will be captured. But please note that if you ask a question, that will be on the recording. Please also use the QR code that you can see here to check in for today's event. This really helps the CID team track attendance and cater for future events. Lastly, please make sure to subscribe to the CID's newsletter to learn more about the kind of events that CID is doing. And so without further ado, I'd like to briefly introduce our speaker today, Mr. Patrick Achi. We're really thrilled to have Mr. Achi here with us at CID this semester as a senior fellow. As I think all of you know, he served as Prime Minister of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire from March 2021 to October 2023. Before that, from 2017 to 2021, he was Secretary General of the Presidency and Executive Secretary of the National Council for Economic Policy, in charge of preparing the Vision 2030 Strategic Development Plan of the country. During the preceding 17 years, he was Minister of Economic Infrastructure, working in areas such as roads, water infrastructure, ports, airports, and railway development. He started his career in the public sector as advisor to the Prime Minister's office in 1998. Today, Prime Minister Achi is also politically involved at both the national and regional levels. He is currently an executive board member of the ruling party, the RHDP, is a member of the Ivorian Parliament, and president of the Regional Council of Lamé. So if we could all welcome Mr. Patrick Achi.
Hi, everybody. I'm really honored to be here today, to be at Harvard at CID. Thanks, Fatima, to attending this session. And I would also like to thank everybody online, and I hope that we're going to have a very interesting journey. I've been Minister of Infrastructure for almost 17 years, so infrastructure is something I know a little bit about. And I was fortunate enough to start the first PPP project on the power sector in 1998. So I've seen everything going on as far as PPP was concerned in the 2 past decades. So what we're going to do today, as outlined here, is that we're going first to see why Africa infrastructure is a paradox, the PPP at least, and try also to see what are the constraints of the public infrastructure financing. Then we will move to the Côte d'Ivoire study case, which is really what I want to deep dive in, going through all the legal framework, the key project that we're going to go through, and come to the major challenges that financing the PPP in the developing world. Here is Côte d'Ivoire, but that's what you find almost everywhere. What are the challenges that we face, and what have we done in Cote d'Ivoire to be able to overcome these challenges and to be able to have done so many PPP projects. Because I think that we can consider Cote d'Ivoire as being a PPP success country. Then we will finish our presentation with what we consider being the key success factors. Having done all these projects, what do we think is for any country who's interested, he should be really checking over very carefully if he wants to succeed. So this is going to be a very practical, real world project and issues that we're going to talk about here. And feel free to ask, any question. So as we start, what do people relate to when they talk about Africa infrastructure paradox? To close today the infrastructure gap, according to a McKinsey study, it required to double annual investment in African infrastructure between 2015 and 2025 to $150 billion by 2025. At the same time, appetite for international investors could be as much as $550 billion. This is the money there to be invested in PPP projects in the continent. The Africa infrastructure paradox is the fact that they're responding a large pipeline of projects, a need for spending, but not enough money is spent. So why? And how can we move that much faster? Public infrastructure finance constraint that we have today is that when you want to finance your infrastructure, education, health, road, power, you need to mobilize quite an amount of resources. Most of these countries have limited fiscal resources, limited concessional loans, limited long maturity loan available in the market, and they, at the same time, have to really watch out very closely the public debt management, mainly talking about controlling the debt to GDP ratio, controlling the debt to fiscal resources ratio, while you need, as I say, massive amount of money that even if you are able to access the multilateral donors, the bilateral agencies, they will not be able to match the needs. So at the end of the day, the conclusion is outside the private sector, the private banking, there is no way you can move forward. To develop your infrastructure at the pace that is required to meet your local challenges, go for the private finance, public infrastructure. Now, the key is that, very often the public administration who's in charge of managing this project is really not always very acquainted to the way the public sector works. And, there's a lot of discussion, negotiation, and it takes so much time. Time is the issue. A project can start and take at least 10 years to be concessioned. Yes, time is really costly. And when people are in need of the services, it's not something we can afford. So how can we manage to be able to access this private financing and how we can manage to do it very quick? That's what we're going to see today with the Cote d'Ivoire case. Cote d'Ivoire has started the PPP, BOT, early in 1998, and the power sector was certainly one of the first projects in the continent, a purely PPP project. So we'll go through that with many other projects, and from there on, we will see what lesson we can learn from the Cote d'Ivoire's experience, which I consider is a success story. First of all, you need to have an administrative and legal framework that will enable the private sector comes in. And that's what we had back home. We have a decree that defines all the PPP process. What are the different steps that we're going to take? Who is doing what, when, how? And something very important is that the process doesn't require the approval of the parliament, because very often every single thing that has to do with the private sector or handing over management or infrastructure to the private sector goes to parliament. And that's a night long story that, very often people don't want to get into. So here, the signing of the concession and the approval of the concession only has to do with the president and the cabinet. So things go quite fast. Second, we have a body called CNPPP, which is in charge of structuring the PPP, talking to the private sector, who is in charge of also advising the administration. When you are having a power PPP, you have to talk with the Minister of Energy. When you have a waste management a PPP, you have to talk with the minister in charge of the waste management system. When you have a port a PPP, you have to talk with the minister in charge of transport. So he is doing, going back and forth between the private and the ministry to make things move quite quickly. Naturally, this body has all the competence that needed to be able to address all these key issues, meaning the technical people, the financial people, and the legal people, who are the three key competence that you need when you really want to get through such complex issues. So we will go through mainly 5 projects. We have more than 20, and you have to really see that when we're talking about PPP project, you have concession sectors to the private management. I'll take, for instance, the water sector. The management of the water sectors is privatized, is concession. The management of the electricity sector is privatized, concession. The management of the airport is privatized, concession. The management of the railway is privatized, concession. The management of the highway is privatized, concession. So you have all that done for the only purpose to have the best services that you can have, quality-wise. When you want to have an enabling environment to attract the private investment, you need to have all these key services that function really well. So concessioning them, through our experience, has shown that you have cost benefits wise the best service you can have. So we had the Azito power project, which was the one that was really the first one to start with our PPP project. It's the gas power station done in 2 phases of 150 megawatts, so 300 megawatt, $223 million, 20% equity. The third phase was a combined cycle. Steam means you use the 2 first project, you use the steam, you combine it to produce, energy. And the fourth phase, which was concession in 2023, is a 255 megawatt project for $330 million with 80% equity and 20% loan. Another power project, the Atinku project, gas power station, 390 megawatt, $403 million, 20% equity, concession signed in 2018, and start of production 2023. If you look at Azito project, you will see that the concession was signed in 1998, and the project started in 2000, 2 years. It was the second fastest PPP, power PPP in the world in 2000 when it was concession. It did receive an award for having been so fast. We can come to that later on. Then we have, just to show how the gas power project worked back home. You have a gas company that is producing the gas, and it is selling the gas to the IPP, the independent power producer, who need the gas to make his turbine work. Then the IPP company sell the power to the distribution company, the electricity management company, who then sell it to the consumer. Now, the consumer pays the distribution company, who in turn pay the gas company and pay the IPP. And they use that money for operating costs and to assume naturally the debt service. So the whole system is purely private. State doesn't have a share in none of these companies, and they just work. When there is a need to increase the power because the demand increase, then the company that is doing the distribution is informed, and the power, the IPP, set up another project for a new IPP. And in the gas side, it's a little bit more complicated because then you have to, go for a field research, and you can find gas or not find gas. Thanks to God, so far we've been able to get all the gas we want. Actually, we have 220 million cubic feet of gas that we give to the power sector. Another hydro project. This is not more gas. Now this is an hydro project, 44 megawatt, $200 million, concession signed in 2013, and it's going to start, it'll be commissioned in 2025 next year. Solar power station. We have 5 projects, ongoing projects. One of them have already started. AMEA project, 50 megawatt, PFO, 48 megawatt, Montfort, 50 megawatt. Totally, we have a total of 252 megawatt project for $270 million that is ready for be commissioned in the next year. Waste management project. That's how waste was before we started this project. 90% of the waste in the country, removing was a real nightmare. Truck going all over here and there, night and days, so on and so forth, bringing it to a station where it was very difficult to treat that waste, and we had to get into this project that is now taking care of 90% of the waste of the country. This is the landfill for waste management project. It's a concession. The concession was signed in 2017. It's commissioned. Now it's a $72 million project, and it's 7 years concession. Port mineral terminal, another PPP project, improve the port and processing capacities for industrial bulk. And this project was concessioned in 2018 for $183 million, 40% equity. It's a 20 years concession. It worked just fine. You have the University of San Pedro. The project now was concessioned in 2018. It cost $58 million, and it's going to last for 16 years. It will the sponsor will construct the university, and it will also manage the university and maintain also the university. We have the toll bridge, HKB toll bridge, a 1.9 kilometer toll bridge, 30 years concession, $260 million cost, financial close in 2012, and government 28%, debt 47%, equity 25%, traffic guarantee by the state, and MEGA political guarantee also we used for this project. This is here. Nice, no? Don't you like it? Great. It was a huge nightmare, back home before this project. You have to go all around the city, cross the Laguna, all over. I mean, people were taking like 3 hours to commute. And, once this bridge was done, it was like half an hour, 45 minutes, and it was great, So, PPP can do great. Now, let's go and look at the challenges that, we're facing. I have to go a little bit quick. First of all, project identification. How many projects will go through the PPP pass? You have to know that before. And if you don't have a strategic plan for 10 years, 15 years, where you have identified very clearly which are the projects that you're going to go through PPP, you don't just start like that. Someone comes, he has the money, I want to finance a PPP, and you say, okay, why don't this project, why not? No, it doesn't work like that. It has to be well thought before. So Côte d'Ivoire, having its 2030 vision and plan project, we have, through this strategic plan, identify what are the key flagship projects that we want to go through PPP. Second is the project study. Development cost is an issue for any project, mainly when you go with the private sector. Because the private guy, he doesn't want to finance a study, very costly, if he's not sure he's going to get the project. Now, if you want to go for a tender, which is the best way to do it, now, he will not do a study, hand you over the study for you to do a tender that he will not win. So the best way is that you, as a state, you do the study, you finance the study, then you are able to do the tender and pick up the best one. The problem is that it's extremely costly. We're talking about, hundreds of millions of dollars, for the type of infrastructure that we want to study. And the state doesn't have by itself the resources to finance that. And very often, the multilateral agency, bilateral agency, don't finance study that they are not themselves realizing. So it's a very tricky issue for us. But Côte d'Ivoire has set a seed fund within its budget every year to do the study that has been identified during the strategic plan process. Third is the negotiation, concession signing, offtake signing issue. That takes the biggest amount of time because that's where all the tricky things are. Once the concession is signed, if I start taking questions, we're not going to finish. So I'm just going over it, and then I come back to you have half an hour, maybe 5 minutes less. I'll take 5 minutes more. The issue now is that's what takes the biggest amount of time. During the study, doing the tender process, picking up the company, doing the negotiation, signing the concession, having the concession approved within the cabinet meeting, all that takes quite a lot of time. For the financial terms to financial close, that's the tricky part of it. You work with the company, that you don't learn that in school, so listen very carefully. You have the tender, you pick up the company. When you do the tender, you ask for so much specification. I want a power plant that will deliver the electricity at a cost of, let's say, 50 cents per kilowatt. So they compete. The one that gives you maybe 45 cents, he has won. But 45 cents is based on how much his power plant is going to cost. So he has made an evaluation. The sponsor is not himself going to build the power plant. He will use an EPC contractors that he has consulted that will build it, that gave the cost. Now he has the financial cost, the interest. He's talked to the bank. They told him, this is the kind of interest I'm going to give you. He knows his shareholders how much interest rate they are going to ask. Out of all that, he comes with a number. He won. Once he has won, for you, it's done. He's got it. Now you're waiting for him to start construction. Now he tells you, I went there, I talked to my bankers, but they said that finally the interest rate they gave me 3 months back is no more the one that I'm going to use. So it's going to increase. I said, what the hell? That's not what we said. But then you track, because it took you so much to do the study, so much to do the tendering, the bidding document, so much to do the tender, so much to pick up the guy, so much to sign the concession. You're not going to go back. So let's move up. So you start, the tricky thing are starting now. If you increase the interest rate, the cost of electricity is not going to be the same. 45 cents is not going to make it. So how do? You increase equity, you're going to put money yourself, you put a longer time for the concession, it's all negotiation. But you have to know that at the end of the day, you find yourself in front of the bankers, which you're not supposed to see anymore anywhere, because the private guy, the sponsor, once he's got the contract, he's supposed to go see the banks, get his money, build these things. You're just waiting for concession. It doesn't work like that. The guy tells you, look, it's not me, it's my banker. So you go to see the banker and say, what's wrong with you guy? You said that. He said, yeah, but it's changed. That's the way it works. You want it, you take it. You don't want it, you leave it. So that's, the tricky thing starts. You get later on and you realize that the role of the state is no more the guy who's just there making a bidding, picking up a contractor or a sponsor and waiting for things to be commissioned. You, on a daily basis, on every single aspect as a stakeholder on the negotiation. We go to the risk and profit sharing and sovereign guarantee. Normally, you pick up someone, he's going to build your bridge. It's a toll bridge where he's being picked up based on the toll fare that he's given. So you're waiting, for the bridge to be built and for him to come and do whatever he should do and wait for the cars to come and collect the toll fare and pay back his banks and finish. It doesn't work like that, you know. Now, what about if he's expecting to have up to 3 years, 70,000 cars per day in the bridge? What happens if he just have 50,000 cars and not have 70,000 cars? He's telling you now, if I make 50,000 cars, I'm not going to make it. I don't have the revenue, and I won't be able to pay my debt. So you, the state, has to make for it. You say, what the hell? I mean, if you don't the market, if you don't think there's a traffic, don't come and do it. But you've already signed everything. Yeah, you're negotiating with the bank. You say, I mean, you know, it's not me, it's the bank, because they don't trust, you know, me, and they think that my figures are not correct. So you swallow it again. Now you tell him now, if we go over 70,000 cars and go for 100,000 cars, you're making profit, because now it's no more your break even, you're making profit. What do we do with this profit? He doesn't say anything. You have to come to him. You say, look, if you 50,000, I can make for the lost. But if you pay 100,000, the 30 more thousand profit we share. Then he said, okay, you look like a smart guy. Why don't we move like that? So keep it in mind. The sovereign guarantee is that what if something went wrong? Something goes wrong after everything, you know, and the bank can't get the money back anymore. They say the state has to pay. Why? You're coming here, you're a private company, you take your risk. If it goes bad, it's your own risk. If it's good, it's your own. Why do I have to be your guarantee? It's not me, Mr. Minister. It's the bankers. I want to see the bankers. I'll go to see the banker. Look, guys, it doesn't work like that. I went to other countries. I went to, you know, Europe, so on and so forth. The guy takes his risk. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Why do the state have to give the guarantee? Yes, you know, there's the political risk, there is this, etc. I'm very sorry, sir, but if you don't give the sovereign guarantee, the project can't be made. It's imbalance of power, you know, it's power struggle. Who's strong, who's not strong. Now I'm in need of my bridge. People are there waiting for the service. I went so far, I give the sovereign guarantee and we move forward. But the guy won't tell you that at the first stage, you know. He knows that, but he won't tell you that. He let you get into it until you just right there in the neck, just near your nose. And then he tells you everything. Just have to open your mouth and swallow it. So you better know that before. The environmental impact studies. You do the studies, you do the environmental impact studies, the sponsor sees it, EPC contractors, everybody is happy about that. You have 5 banks financing the project. The 5th one, the one who is financing for the least amount, tell you I'm not happy with the environmental impact study because you have not taken in account that every single person that was right there where you're doing the bridge, as you're relocating him, should have a 3-bedroom nice apartment. That's not what you gave him. So it doesn't fit with my standards. You say, what the hell? That was not in the beginning of the project. Yeah, but you don't get it, we don't give you your money. We have standard that we have to meet. That's also an issue that you should know beforehand. Then you can be really prepared for that. Now, key success factors, I'm going to go quite fast on that. Enabling environment, I told you the legal framework is very important for the private sector to come. Political will. The team has to be connected at the highest level of the government, because very often they are compromised to make. They're trade-off to make, and you cannot make it alone. If you can't reach the top officials, then you're trapped. And this is also the timing constraint issues. Tender. As much as you can, go for a tender. Because a direct contract, you'll get into things that you have not anticipated, and he will say he doesn't want, you want, doesn't want. Bidding documents is where you can state everything. It's clear. The tender document is clear. Everybody has his role. He knows what he's committed to. It makes things much easier. Time is costly. Fight the good fight. Every single thing that can make you lose time is very dangerous because it brings you to other costs that you don't even anticipate. Sometimes people will say discussing for 3-4 months just for a couple of dollars that don't even have that much impact on the cost. Just discussing. You'll avoid that. assess every single impact of an issue for which you feel that you have to backtrack. If it doesn't have that much impact, just go for it, because time is very, very, very costly. Experience is key. As you embark in this journey, take with you people who've already gone through that, from the studies all the way to the commissioning of the project. You don't learn that at school. He might be as brilliant as it is. Here, we're talking about life experience. You've gone through that. All the tricky things that people don't tell you, he knows about it. He can tell that to you beforehand. That can save you a lot of money. That's why I say, you know, people who have already done it, lawyer is the most important guy. Because when you're talking technical issues, then the lawyer should be there, because there are technical specifications, there is a contract. You talk about financial issues, there's commitment, the lawyer is there. You're talking about legal matters, then that's their home. Then weigh the cost benefits, you'll say, no, the price is too high, I don't want you. Then you're going to pick up someone else who's not as experienced as that. You might lose much more money than you think you have saved trying to reduce the cost of the expert. Monitoring team, once the project is concession and it's up and running, don't say it's finished, because the concession commitment that you have go way beyond the commissioning. You know, during the life of the project, you might have obligation, and people should really follow so that you don't help yourself get into. Track records, never default. The banking people, they have, I don't know, this is the biggest memory I've ever seen. You're doing something wrong, 50 years later, most of these people you work with are gone, some of them are dead, but the new one know that to default one day, and they will remind you that. So any other private guy who comes to your country to do a PPP, he go for a full assessment of every single PPP you've done before. He called the sponsors, he called the financial institution, he called the EPC contractors. Did everything was wrong there? If there's only one thing that went wrong, the risk factor is increasing, your cost is increasing. So we went through, as a country, for 20 years with our power project, PPP, we went through a military coup, a civil war, a post-electoral crisis, but never ever we default. Because the military knew they shouldn't default. The civil war people knew they shouldn't default. They wanted electricity. So it was like something beyond party, beyond everything. It's a state issue. It's a country issue. It's a national issue. That's where we got our credit. And so many other PPP came later on. You are alone. You are alone. You are alone in that journey. Don't trust anyone. The banker will tell you something, you go, they go behind you, meet with your sponsor, they do some tricks, the sponsor come first, look, this is going to change, so on and so forth. And once, what happened to me, the sponsor came and said, you see, the project cost is going to increase. I said, what the hell? He said, yeah, you've lost 1 year. So the cost I gave you, now I'm asking the EPC contractors new prices, and he's telling me that after 1 year, it's 20% more. The copper has increased. They have all this, fancy story that they give you. Now you're there, you sign everything. He said 20% more. That is going to be added to the initial cost that you have not anticipated. You just swallow it. So everything you discard, you leave something alone, something bad is going to happen to you. Move fast. You have enemies everywhere. Don't see, oh, this is, this multilateral agency, it's a development bank. So these people are helping developing countries. They will help me fight against these private banks. Bankers are bankers. Bankers are bankers. It's a whole, whatever, you know the name. But at the end of the day, no professional experience has been more exciting in life. It just eats you up. It's passionating. And I guess, I hope one of you go through something like that. You'll never forget about it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks so much, Prime Minister Achi. We now have time for questions. Please keep them brief, and we'll take maybe 3 questions at a time so that we can answer as many questions as possible. And please say your name.
Thank you so much. My name is Frank Fade. I'm from MIT, and I'm also from Côte d'Ivoire. So my question is, I've seen the Africa paradox, the infrastructure paradox in Africa. So with all the natural resources we have, with everything, all this riches we have here in Africa, why Africa is not able to finance its own development?
Thank you, Prime Minister Achi, for being here. I have a question about resource nationalism. You're seeing more and more tendency of the African youth and the young leaders asking for more economic benefit accruing to the population. You see what happened in Senegal. They're thinking about auditing all the contracts. I wonder if you have this problem. Can you do PPPs when people are skeptical about the benefit for the population? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Eli Sandler. I'm a fellow here, and I teach a class on climate finance. But the very brief question I wanted to ask when I attempted to interrupt you was, if you said that whoever does the survey has a right automatically to be the financer, I just wanted to make sure I heard that right. And then my actual question was, given what you said, bankers are bankers. I used to be a banker in infrastructure finance. How would you change the system to make this better? Like, you've said a lot of things that are going wrong, and you've kind of put in place the guardrails maybe a policymaker in an emerging market can use to get the best out of the financial system. But do you think there are any rules that could be changed nationally, internationally, that would make your life easier?
Yeah, okay.
I guess you would have been able to come to a class that I was giving, a seminar on unleashing the African opportunity to accelerate growth, which means why most of the African countries are today lagging behind, far behind some Southeast Asian country that 60 years back were confronted to the same situation that they are in today, and they were able to overcome that and leapfrog. Why? What happened? So my last session is next Thursday. I will, please call you to attend that last session. Everything will be said there to answer your question. But to be very serious, natural resources are natural resources. First of all, natural resources doesn't help, grow. It's transforming these natural resources through value chains, going as far as possible on the value chain that give you resources. Unfortunately, the rate of transformation of our local product is not sufficiently high to bring the resources that we will expect to be doing that. Second question, national champions, that's what you're talking about. I guess, every country wants its national to be, the key leaders of the private sector. Very often it has to do with being able to access financial resources to develop your private business. And very often what is happening is that we're going through a tender process. That's what I'm saying here. Now, you want to get the best quality cost service. For some sectors that are not very key strategic that you can manage, we putting some bias statement to favor the national. We might say, if your cost is plus 15% of a foreigner, you'll be awarded the contract. So there are things like that that we put to favor, the national. But you have to be very careful, if you want to help and promote the national, doesn't mean that you're going to get into a nationalism trap where you give everything to some people who might not have the capability to do it. So very often what we're doing and asking our friend and our folks to do is to go in partnership with someone who's got the experience, who's got the quality that are required, and you come both with them, you do it once. The second time, maybe you can go by yourself, or maybe you come together, but this time you lead, and the third time you come, alone. But you don't just get up one day and say, because I'm a national, give me that, give me this. I don't think any country can grow like that. Third point, I didn't quite clearly, what you said about the survey.
What I heard you say was that when you conduct the initial feasibility studies, whoever conducts it, you said that they have the right to execute the project, or did I misunderstand what you said?
No, what I'm saying is that it is very costly. These studies can go for millions of dollars. And a private sector, I'm a private bank or a private sponsor, I'm interested on that power project. If I do the feasibility study, then I have the study, and I come to you. If you ask me to give you the study, to write the bidding document and do the tender, it means that after the tender, I might not win. Someone else will win. So why should I go pay for a study for which I'm not even sure that I'll get the project? So you might as well, as a state, do the study. Then from that study, go ahead. Because it already happened that the private sector did the study, and then we went over, on the direct contract without a tender. And at a certain point, the negotiation couldn't go through. It failed because he was asking too much that he wouldn't like to have. He went with his study. He won't give you the study. You cannot use his study now to go with someone else. You've lost 1, 2 years, and here you are taking another year to do the study by yourself. So, that's right. We don't have enough money. It's really costly. But as much as you can do the study yourself, it frees you from any binding issues. Now, for the second question was,
how do you make the system better?
Oh, how do you make the system better? I thought you bankers, you told me how we make the system better, because at the end of the day, you guys are not that bad because you want to get profit. The sponsor want to get the best return of interest. That's the shareholders. The bankers behind him want to make the best interest rate on the financing. You, as a state, you want to make the cost of the service the lower. That doesn't match. So there's a struggle everywhere. Who should lose? The shareholders don't want to lose. The bankers don't want to lose. At the end of the day, the bankers are the strongest one because they are the ones who provide for the money. They don't give it, no service, no shareholders interest rate. So, the only thing I'm going to ask is not for the banker or whoever to change, because that's their business. That's the way they are. I'm not saying they are ripping you off, but they are trying to take advantage of you. So you are the guy who should be prepared, who should change to know that this is not a child's game. This is a serious issue. You want to go for that, you get the great people. In your own team, you should have bankers. That's the first way to do it. Then they talk banker to banker, they know how to move forward. But I think the CBC is working right. The strongest one always want to take advantage of the weakest one, being in the field, in the zoo, whoever they are, human beings are the same thing. Just prepare yourself for the fight.
Thank you. My name is Martin Rodriguez. My question is regarding the toll bridge. You mentioned that you use a mega political risk guarantee. I was wondering where are the effects on the financing costs of having the political risk guarantee, and if it was worth the trouble of working with the World Bank.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful talk, Prime Minister Achi. And my name is Lia Taddesa. I'm the Executive Director for Harvard Ministerial Leadership Program and former Minister of Health of Ethiopia. So I also have been engaged in some of this work. In terms of just 2 quick questions, you did say that tender would be much beneficial in many ways, definitely. But have there been projects that you have seen would benefit more from direct negotiation, especially when there is a relationship maybe with the government to government in the country where the private sector is or the type of the project itself. And the second one, in terms of the risk profit, minimizing the risk and ensuring the profit, it of course depends on the strength of the feasibility study, and that's one of the key factors that usually delays it. But have you seen any best models of reducing risk and ensuring success of the PPP when designing the feasibility? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Yacinthe. I'm from MIT. You mentioned tender and the importance of tender. My question is on transparency. How can we ensure transparent biddings and transparent tenders?
Thank you very much. As far as the MIGA issue is concerned, cost is really minimum. We even had, for the first Azito project, the first IDA guarantee ever in the world. It was set up. We're the first, to use it. And actually now on the project that we have, some private people are asking for the MIGA guarantee, and MIGA said, we don't give a guarantee. This country has such, huge track records on being able to succeed on all these projects that we don't think that you should ask for this guarantee. As far as PPP are concerned, you could feel really at ease. So we're happy about that. But at that time, 20 years back, we're getting out of the crisis. It was quite very complicated. So it was, normal to ask that. But that was not a major issue, and the cost was not that, bad. The second question has to do with the tender. And yes, a tender versus direct contract. I think it could be argued. There's a lot of people could say this one is better, this one better. What I think is that on the tender process, you happen to have 3, 4, 5 people who try to give you the best they can give. So you can at least see what is there out in the world, which is the best service that you can receive for which cost. Now, when you go for a direct contract, you can compare with others. You negotiate. You could be taking the best firm on the field or on the sector who's known to be, have the best quality of the service, but then you'll be never able to challenge his costs. So sometimes we happen to go for a bidding process, and at the end of the day, the tender process fails. Then we enter in direct negotiation with others, but at least we have an idea of cost figures. When we start going in direct negotiation, we have an idea of what is possible to get on the market, and that's a baseline for discussion. So yes, sometimes, because of time issue, because preparing the bidding document, preparing the tender, getting to pick up the contractors, so on and so forth, can take a year and a half. There's a lot of discussion. So, sometimes there's a purpose for that, but most often it's better to go for, a tender process. That might get you also at the end of the day to a direct, contract, but on the process, it always helps. Second is the cost benefits issue. The problem is, and as I told you, it's the same thing as the electricity or, as I say, the transport. They did the feasibility study. They pick up, a firm to do the feasibility study to see how much car will be taking the bridge per day and per year. They came up with the figures. Very often, the banks that are financing the sponsors, they don't trust these numbers. So the bank themselves, they go pick up another firm, do another study. The state itself, because it's a very sensitive issue that we have to discuss, because risk issue has to do with that. We're going to bear risk. So we want to be sure that they are not, telling us, wrong stories. So we ourselves go and do another study. But at the end of the day, it's the banker's study that stands. Because he's the one giving you the money, He tell you, I don't trust your figures. You're telling me 70,000 vehicle. After 3 years, I don't think you can make more than 50,000. If you don't agree with that, you don't get the money. So we're talking PPPs, we're talking contractors, we're talking sponsors. The people who have the power are the ones you never see. They are sitting somewhere in a 30-story buildings in a very AC high room and waiting for you. So yeah, you do all the study, but at the end of the day, you find yourself in front of the bankers and he tells you, this is my figures. So you want it or you don't want it. But you know what? Very often, and that's what happened to us, when we were expecting 70 to 80,000 vehicles, we went as far as 100,000 vehicles. In fact, we didn't have enough tolls. We have to build other tolls to be able to accommodate the number of vehicles that were coming. Thanks God, it means that, the numbers were fair. Now, the last question has to do with tender and transparency. You mean when you go for a tender process, by itself, it's a transparent, process, because a lot of key major company, multinationals, are answering to your bid. And if they lose the bid, they want to be sure that there's nothing tricky over there, because they have people they can call to tell them this thing was not fair. One day you might see one ambassador coming to your office and saying, look, one of the company from my country, went through this bidding process and we feel that the way you pick up the wire was not fair. Can we have explanation? Or even the banks, can ask you, So once you go for a tender process, it means that you have independent stakeholders here and there that are going to watch the process. Direct contract is where you can stay in your room, in your office, and sign whatever you want. That has a transparency issue. But just going for the tendering process means the result of the process are going to be publicly known. So if things are not really going right, it will be known by a lot. So by itself, I think that it's really rigorous. And also transparency. When you go for a PPP, I guess there is no better transparent process. Because when you take power, for instance, in the PPP, you have the cost, the final cost that is breakdown. I showed you earlier, gas, independent power producer, distributor. So when you look at the cost of the electricity, you will see how much goes to the distributor, how much goes to the independent power producer, how much goes to the gas provider. So the cost is breakdown is very transparent. And the model, the financial model, is really known by everyone. It's public. It's a financial flow of the sector. How does the money flow in and out is known by everybody. You take the toll highway, it's transparent. This is the cost of the toll. How much the manager of the toll take, how much the bankers take, how much this take, how much a sponsor take, it's transparent. So by itself, the PPP process bring the cost breakdown and the financial flow transparent to the public. I think it's also a very good thing.
I think as we started a little bit late, we'll just take, and I know there are hands, we'll take 2 more questions.
My name is Bright. I was very impressed with the project, the waste management project that you did. I understand from some of the work that I have done somewhere else in Asia about quantitative and qualitative waste analysis. When you look at that very huge waste that was there when you started the project, you can see there was a lot of job created around bringing the waste there, because you find out some people have these motorbikes, they go to the community, collect the waste, and they take money from the community and take money for dumping the waste there. That's one aspect. And then as you see that, amount of waste that is produced per day in Ivory Coast, I'm not quite sure, or the environment that project was done. I want to know, even though these projects looks good, it looks very reactionary. It helps you secure political votes, and then you can win the election. But I want to know if it's possible, the long-term strategic plans. For instance, when I was in Beijing, I spent more than 10 years there. And when they have similar projects, they are able to convert some of those waste into energy generation. You're also spending more money also in some of the Azito projects that I hear about. I don't know. I want to know your thoughts on that.
Hi, thanks for being here. I'm Amina, a student here from Morocco. My question is, has your experience been similar when you worked with different investors from different regions in the world? Especially interested in comparing your experience working with Western investors, Asian, I'm thinking China and India, and African, thinking especially Moroccans, since they're quite present in Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the waste management project is concerned, I think that it's right. It's job creating, create a lot of jobs. And the issue of sustainability is really a very important aspect of it. At the end of the day, you want to go all the way down to all the transformation possible. You can make biomass, power generation, so on and so forth. But I think here we're at the first stage, collecting and storing the waste somewhere every single day. Whatever you want to do later on with it is the first stage. You cannot just leave it in the street here and there with the health impact and all that. It's really, too dangerous. So this project is dealing with the first stage of the project. Then the country, the state is also working with the second stage of the project, because it's not all the garbage that you use to go for biomass or for fertilizer and all that, but they will have project to go all along the line. But I guess you have to go all the way the value chain and sustainability. The second question that has to do with the investors, that's what I was saying. An investor doesn't have a color. He has the color of its money, meaning that they are built the same way. They being coming from China, from Morocco, from the US, from everywhere. They have only one word: bottom line. Bottom line. They're looking at the figures. Bottom line. People used to say that very often that sometimes there's money coming from China that is I mean, for the experience that I have with most of the Exim Bank, China Exim Bank, other countries Exim Bank, US Exim Bank, so on and so forth, they first of all ask you for a business plan, because the money they are giving you, they want to make sure that you will be able to reimburse the money. And that goes through your business plan. If the business plan doesn't fit, then they backtrack a while. Then you have to give them state guarantee, So they're all the same. So that's why I say, be concentrated on your project, pick up the right project, do the feasibility study, or have people help you do the feasibility, go for a tender, and you'll get through at the end of the day. Through my long journey of experience of PPP, there were a lot of debate at the beginning. Why would you privatize the electricity company? Why would you privatize so on and so forth? But I told you, we went through, I don't know, you cannot even imagine. But because we were able to hand over the management to the people who really knew how to do it and do it well and concentrated on that and not be influenced by any governmental or policy or political things, they just did the job great. The only thing you have to take care about is using the private company impact your costs and the cost of services to the extent that it will make your population suffer. Now, you have another thing to watch out. One thing is the cost. Another thing is able to deliver the service. You find that electricity costs might be expensive until you have no more electricity. Then you start to realize that when you don't have any more electricity, then you're ready to pay 5% more to have electricity day and night all the time. So sometimes this debate about cost, about private sector is not the right debate. As a state member, my concern is my people. My concern is how I can lower down the cost as low as possible for them. The private sector wants to get his internal rate of return. So the debate is there. I'm telling him the electricity sector is a very sensitive sector. Whoever want to get in, you will not get more than 12%, or you'll not get more than 10% interest rate. It's not here that you're going to find 80%, 22%. It doesn't work. For other sector that maybe, get more money, don't have to be dealing with the poor, all that, we can see. But here, that's my cap. That's the way you work with them at the end of the day. So it's not really who's doing what, is at which cost they can deliver quality service sustainably, permanently, for the sake of the industrial people and also the population.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Prime Minister Achi, for coming to speak to us, and also to all of you for attending. Please do sign in to the event using the QR code, and also anything you used here is compostable, so please put it in the compost bin. The last thing is we do have like an informal chat, careers chat with Prime Minister Achi happening now. So if you want to stay for that, we're going to be in Rubenstein 429. So please do join us for that. Thank you.